They thought the ship was on fire. Turns out a human had just boarded, the day Susan Parker boarded the Galactic Alliance ship. Starshine started like any other day in space. She checked her uniform, made sure her diplomatic badge was straight, and took a deep breath. This was a big moment for humanity. After years of sending signals into space, aliens had finally answered. Now Susan, as Earth's first diplomat to the stars, was about to step onto an alien vessel. "Remember your training," Captain Frank Miller told her before she left Earth's ship. "You represent all of us now." Susan nodded, trying to hide how nervous she felt. The connecting tube between the two ships looked like a long, clear tunnel. Through it, she could see strange shapes moving on the other side. The aliens were waiting. As the airlock opened with a soft hiss, Susan stepped forward. The air on the alien ship felt cold against her skin, and she shivered slightly. The corridor was lit with a blue-green glow that made everything look underwater. "Hello," she called out, her voice sounding too loud in the quiet space. "I am Lieutenant Susan Parker from Earth. I come with peaceful intentions." No one answered. Strange, she thought. The communication team had arranged this meeting weeks ago. Where was the welcome party? Susan walked further into the ship. The walls were smooth and slightly curved, made of a material that wasn't quite metal and wasn't quite plastic. The floor hummed gently beneath her feet. Suddenly, a high-pitched alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed along the walls. Susan froze, her heart racing. Had she done something wrong? Was this some kind of test? Before she could decide what to do, a panel in the ceiling opened, and thick white foam rained down on her. It covered her from head to toe in seconds, hardening slightly on contact with her skin. "What the?" she spluttered, wiping foam from her eyes. The stuff smelled like mint and chemicals. Through the foam, Susan saw figures rushing toward her. They moved oddly, with too many joints in their limbs. Each wore what looked like a full-body suit with clear bubbles where their heads should be. In their hands, they carried devices that blinked with small lights. One of the aliens pointed a scanner at her. It made a shrill beeping noise. The alien jumped back, saying something to the others in a language Susan's translator couldn't catch. More aliens appeared, these ones carrying what looked like weapons. They surrounded Susan, keeping their distance as if she might explode. "I'm unarmed," Susan said slowly, raising her foam-covered hands. "I was invited here, please, there must be some mistake." Her translator beeped, converting her words into the clicking, whistling language of the Galactic Alliance. The aliens conferred among themselves, waving their scanners at her. Finally, one stepped forward. Its suit was decorated with more symbols than the others, probably indicating higher rank. "You are generating dangerous levels of thermal radiation," the alien said through its own translator. "Our sensors detected a fire moving through our ship. Why are you burning?" Susan blinked in confusion. "Burning? I'm not on fire. This is my normal body temperature." The alien's large eyes widened inside its clear helmet. "Impossible. Your core temperature registers at 37 degrees Celsius. No sentient being can survive such heat. You would cook from the inside." And then Susan understood. These aliens must have a much lower body temperature than humans. To them, she was walking around with a fever that would kill them. "This is normal for humans," she explained. "We're warm-blooded. Our bodies maintain this temperature all the time." The lead alien turned to its companions and shared this information. They all took another step back. "You are saying all humans are this hot?" one asked. "Yes, it's how our bodies work." "And you do not ignite things when you touch them?" Susan couldn't help but laugh, which only made the aliens more nervous. "No, we don't set things on fire by touching them. Most things on our planet can handle our body heat just fine." The lead alien spoke into a communication device on its wrist. After a moment, it addressed Susan again. "We are contacting Alliance. Command to verify this information. Please remain where you are. The fire suppression foam will help contain your heat signature." Susan sighed, foam flaking off her shoulders as she lowered her arms. This was not how she had imagined first contact would go. 3 hours later, Susan sat in what appeared to be a meeting room, wrapped in a special blanket that reflected her body heat back at her rather than letting it escape into the ship. The foam had been cleaned off, but the aliens still kept their distance. Captain Zix Voon of the Starshine had finally arrived along with the ship's science officer. Both wore thinner environmental suits now, but still protected themselves from her dangerous temperature. We have confirmed with our xenobiology experts that your species does indeed maintain this extreme internal temperature, Captain Zix Voon said. We offer our deepest apologies for the misunderstanding. Our sensors were calibrated to detect fires, not hot-blooded diplomats. Susan accepted the apology with good grace. No harm done, Captain. I imagine we'll discover many differences between our species. This is just the first. Indeed, the science officer chimed in, moving closer with obvious fascination despite the captain's warning gesture. Your biology is remarkable. You carry the equivalent of a small fusion reactor inside your body. The energy requirements must be enormous. We do eat a lot, Susan admitted. And often. This comment caused another flurry of alarm among the aliens. You mean you add fuel to this internal combustion regularly? The science officer asked. Several times a day, Susan confirmed. Actually, I'm getting hungry now. It's been hours since breakfast. Captain Zix Voon made a gesture that Susan's cultural training identified as concern. We will arrange safe food delivery immediately. Please do not allow your internal furnace to go out while aboard our vessel. Susan bit her lip to keep from laughing again. This diplomatic mission was going to be more complicated than anyone back on Earth had imagined. Who would have thought that human body temperature would be their first major cultural hurdle? As the aliens hurried away to find food that wouldn't poison her, Susan made a mental note for her first report. Bring ice packs next time, and maybe fire extinguishers as a gesture of goodwill. The adventure was just beginning. They thought the ship was on fire. Turns out, a human had just boarded. Part 2. News of the burning ones spread through the Galactic Alliance fleet faster than light speed. 1 week after Susan Parker's eventful first contact, another human arrived on the Starshine. Alan Garcia was a medical officer from Earth, sent to help bridge the gap between human and alien biology. He stepped through the airlock with caution, having been fully briefed on Susan's experience. Unlike Susan, he was greeted by a proper welcome party, though they all wore thin, protective suits and kept a careful distance. Welcome aboard, Doctor. Garcia, Captain Zix Voon said through his translator. We have prepared special quarters for you that will contain your heat signature. Alan nodded politely. Thank you, Captain. I look forward to working with your medical team. The special quarters turned out to be a room lined with the same heat-reflective material as the blanket they had given Susan. It kept the rest of the ship from detecting his dangerous body temperature, but it also made the room uncomfortably hot for a human. Alan wiped sweat from his forehead as he unpacked his equipment. His first meeting with the alien medical staff was scheduled for the next morning. When he arrived at the ship's medical bay, 5 alien doctors waited for him, their large eyes filled with a mixture of fear and curiosity. We have many questions, said the chief medical officer, a tall, thin being named Trelpak, whose skin shimmered with a blue-green glow. Your biology defies our understanding of life processes. I'm happy to explain, Alan said. He had brought visual aids, knowing that seeing human biology presented in a clinical scientific way might help the aliens feel less threatened. He pulled up a diagram of the human body on his tablet. As you can see, humans maintain our internal temperature through a process called homeostasis. Our bodies generate heat through metabolism, breaking down food for energy. The aliens leaned in closer, fascination temporarily overcoming their fear. And you do not overheat? One asked. We sweat to cool down, Alan explained. Water evaporates from our skin, taking heat with it. The idea of deliberately leaking water seemed to horrify them even more than the heat. You leak? Trelpak asked, making a gesture of disgust. Only when necessary, Alan assured them. It's very efficient. The questions continued for hours. Alan patiently explained human digestion, circulation, and respiration. The aliens were particularly interested in human tolerance for heat and cold. Your species can survive in temperatures from roughly 0 to 40 degrees Celsius without special equipment? Trellpack asked, clearly doubting this could be true. With proper clothing, yes, Alan confirmed, though we prefer temperatures around 20 to 25 degrees. And what do you consider hot? Alan thought for a moment. Well, a fever of 39 degrees makes us feel quite ill. Water at 60 degrees would burn our skin, but we regularly consume beverages at nearly 100 degrees Celsius. This statement caused such alarm that two of the medical staff backed away quickly. Trellpack made a calming gesture toward them before turning back to Alan. You drink substances at boiling temperature? The chief medical officer asked slowly, as if making sure the translation was correct. Alan realized his mistake too late. No, not boiling for us, just very hot. Like this. He reached for the mug he had brought with him from his quarters. Steam rose from the dark liquid inside, coffee one of his few comforts from home. 3 security officers rushed into the room before he could take a sip. Their scanners were pointed at his mug, and they were making urgent warning sounds in their native language. It's just coffee, Alan explained, holding the mug carefully. It's a beverage humans enjoy hot. It's perfectly safe. The aliens stared at the steaming liquid as if it might leap out and attack them. The scanner showed the coffee's temperature at 80 degrees Celsius, hot enough to kill most of the species in the Galactic Alliance if they drank it. I can demonstrate, Alan offered, taking a small sip. The coffee was strong and bitter, just how he liked it. The medical staff observed his drinking with a mixture of horror and amazement. To them it looked like he was swallowing liquid fire. Incredible, Trellpack said finally. Your kind consumes heat for pleasure. Alan started to explain that it wasn't the heat itself they enjoyed, but the flavor that came with it. But he was interrupted by an urgent call over the ship's communication system. Medical team to engineering, emergency situation. Trellpack and the others rushed out, leaving Alan alone with his coffee. After a moment's hesitation, he followed them. If someone was hurt, his medical training might be useful even across species. When he reached engineering, he found a scene of controlled chaos. One section of the ship had been sealed off, and several crew members were gathered around a control panel. Among them was another human, a woman Alan hadn't met yet. The coolant system is failing, someone explained as Alan joined the group. Temperature in Section 7 is dropping rapidly. Anyone who enters without a thermal suit will freeze in minutes. I can go, the human woman said. She was wearing an Earth uniform with an engineering insignia. My natural body heat will protect me long enough to make the repairs. The alien engineers looked doubtful, but the situation was growing dire. Warning lights flashed on their control panels. I'm Patricia Kim, the woman said to Alan as she prepared to enter the sealed section. Ship's engineer, nice to meet another human face. She grinned. Turns out being a walking furnace has its advantages. Before anyone could stop her, Patricia had opened the airlock to Section 7 and stepped through. The aliens watched on a monitor as she moved through the increasingly cold area. Frost was forming on the walls, but Patricia kept moving, her breath visible in clouds around her. She reached the damaged coolant system and began working quickly, her fingers moving with precision despite the cold. The aliens watched in amazement as she handled metal parts that would have caused instant frostbite to their species. Her internal heat is protecting her, Trellpack observed, but she cannot stay there long. Alan checked another monitor that showed Patricia's vital signs. Her body temperature was dropping, but she was still within safe limits. She knows what she's doing, he assured them. Humans have evolved to handle temperature variations. After 10 tense minutes, Patricia completed the repairs. The system hummed back to life, and she made her way back to the airlock, moving more slowly now as the cold affected her. When she returned, her lips were blue, and she was shivering, but she was smiling. Fixed it, she said through chattering teeth. Though I could use some of that coffee now. The alien crew stared at her with new respect. What they had seen as a dangerous trait, the intense heat of human bodies, had just saved their ship. That night, as Alan helped Patricia recover from her cold exposure, They talked about their unique position on the starshine. "They're still afraid of us," Patricia said, wrapping her hands around a fresh mug of hot coffee. "But I think today they started to see that different doesn't mean dangerous." Alan nodded. "It's just the beginning. Wait until they find out about our other biological quirks." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "I haven't told them yet that humans can go days without sleep, or that we can run for hours without stopping," Alan said with a grin. "I think one shock at a time is enough." Outside their quarters, the Starshine continued its journey through space, its alien crew slowly adapting to the strange, hot-blooded creatures who had joined them among the stars. They thought the ship was on fire. Turns out a human had just boarded. Part 3. 2 weeks after the coolant system incident, the Starshine received an important visitor. Chief Researcher Cole Zahn of the Galactic Alliance Science Council arrived, with a team of specialists. They had come to study the humans. Word of the Burning Ones had reached the highest levels of Alliance leadership, and they wanted more information about these strange new allies. The Science Council had called an emergency session to review the preliminary data on human physiology. Susan Parker, Alan Garcia, and Patricia Kim were called to a meeting in the ship's main conference room. When they arrived, they found a group of aliens waiting for them. Unlike the Starshine crew, who had grown somewhat used to humans, these newcomers watched them with obvious unease. Cole Zahn was easy to spot. The chief researcher wore elaborate robes covered in scientific symbols and had 6 slender arms, each holding a different scanning device. When the humans entered, all 6 scanners turned toward them. "Fascinating," Cole Zahn said after taking initial readings. "They maintain this heat constantly, through an internal combustion process they call metabolism." Susan stepped forward. "We're happy to answer your questions directly, Chief Researcher. There's no need to talk about us as if we aren't here." Cole Zahn blinked large purple eyes. "Yes, of course, forgive me. It is just remarkable. Your kind are so hot." The meeting went on for hours. The humans explained their biology, demonstrated their vital signs, and answered countless questions. The science team seemed particularly interested in how humans regulated their temperature. "And you say this heat can increase?" one researcher asked. "During what you call exercise?" "Yes," Alan explained. "Physical activity raises our metabolic rate, which generates more heat." "Could you demonstrate?" Cole Zahn asked. The humans exchanged glances. "Here?" Patricia asked, looking around the crowded conference room. "We have set up a testing chamber," Cole Zahn said, gesturing toward a door at the far end of the room. "With your permission, we would like to observe this process." The humans agreed, though Susan felt uneasy. "I feel like a lab specimen," she whispered to Alan as they followed the science team. The testing chamber was a large, empty room with observation windows along one wall. The science team gathered behind the glass, adjusting their equipment. "We have asked your military liaison to join us," Cole Zahn announced. "He should be able to demonstrate your species' physical capabilities more effectively." As if on cue, the door opened, and a tall, muscular human man entered. He wore a standard Earth Defense Force uniform and had the confident stride of someone used to command. "Commander Jack Nelson," he introduced himself, shaking hands with the 3 humans. "Earth Defense Force. They told me you need someone to run around and get sweaty for science." He grinned. "I volunteered." Behind the glass, the alien scientists flinched at the casual contact between humans. The idea of voluntarily touching something so hot was clearly disturbing to them. "They want to see how our body temperature changes during exercise," Susan explained. "I think they're still trying to understand that we don't actually catch fire." Jack laughed. "Well, let's give them a show then." He turned to the window. "Do you have any exercise equipment? A treadmill, maybe?" The aliens provided a treadmill and several other pieces of equipment designed for human physiology. Jack started with a light jog, while Alan monitored his vital signs for the science team. "Normal running speed for a trained human," Alan narrated as Jack's pace increased. "Body temperature rising slightly, heart rate increasing to pump more." oxygen-rich blood to muscles. The alien scientist watched in fascination. Their scanning equipment registered the gradual increase in Jack's heat signature as he ran faster. "Now I'll demonstrate a sprint," Jack said after a few minutes of jogging. Short burst of maximum speed. Without waiting for a response, he increased the treadmill to its highest setting and began running at full speed. His body temperature spiked rapidly as he pushed himself to his limits. 3 separate alarms went off behind the observation glass. The room's automated systems had detected a dangerous heat source. Emergency lights began flashing and cooling jets activated in the ceiling. Jack stopped running and wiped his forehead, breathing hard. "Sorry about that," he called out, his voice barely audible over the alarms. "Should have warned you first." Through the glass he could see the science team in chaos. Some were frantically working to override the alarm system, while others stared at their readings in disbelief. When the alarms finally stopped, Kulzan approached the intercom. "Commander Nelson, your core temperature reached 38.5 degrees Celsius. In any Alliance species, this would indicate catastrophic physiological failure. Yet you appear unharmed." Jack shrugged. "That's normal. Humans can exercise for hours, with body temperatures going even higher in extreme athletes. We cool down afterward through sweating." To demonstrate, he pointed to the beads of moisture on his face and neck. The scientists recoiled at the sight of the leaking they found so disturbing. "And humans do this for enjoyment?" asked Ambassador Trilvox, who had joined the science team partway through the demonstration. "Some of us even compete to see who can run fastest or longest," Jack said. "Marathon runners go for hours without stopping." He did not understand why this statement caused such alarm among the observers. To a species whose biology made such temperatures potentially lethal, the idea of voluntarily raising body heat for hours at a time sounded like torture. After the exercise demonstration, the science team insisted on performing more tests. They measured how quickly humans cooled down, how they responded to different ambient temperatures, and how much heat they transferred to objects they touched. "Your kind would be deadly in close quarters with most Alliance species," Kulzan concluded after reviewing all the data. "Prolonged exposure to your body heat could cause severe health issues for us." "We had no idea," Susan said, genuinely concerned. "Is that why your crew keeps their distance?" "Yes. It is not merely cultural but a biological necessity," the chief researcher explained. "We will need to develop special protocols for human-alien interactions moving forward." "What about shared spaces?" Patricia asked. "Most of your ship feels cold to us. Is there a temperature that would work for both species?" Kulzan consulted with the other scientists before responding. "Perhaps 18 degrees Celsius. Cool enough for our safety, yet not dangerously cold for humans. With proper ventilation to disperse your excess heat." As the meeting concluded, Susan felt a mix of emotions. The gap between humans and aliens was wider than anyone had realized. Their very biology made close cooperation challenging. Yet in Jack's demonstration, she had also seen something important. The aliens' fear was beginning to mix with respect. The same heat they feared made humans capable of impressive physical feats by their standards. "They're afraid of us," Jack said quietly as they left the testing chamber. "But they're also starting to see our potential as allies." Susan nodded. "Let's hope they decide our heat is worth the risk." Outside the conference room, the science team was already drafting their report to the Alliance Council. The future of human-alien relations hung in the balance. They thought the ship was on fire. Turns out a human had just boarded. Part 4. The Galactic Alliance Military Council met 3 days after receiving the Science Council's report on human physiology. Admiral Nancy Wright, Earth's representative to the Alliance, sat uncomfortably at the large round table. She was the only human in the room, and she could feel the other council members watching her from a safe distance. "The findings are clear," said General Krillvex, head of Alliance. "Special operations. Humans represent both a biological hazard and a potential tactical advantage." Nancy had expected this reaction. The report classified humans as potential biological weapons based on their natural heat resistance and seemingly impossible biochemistry. Earth has no intention of weaponizing our natural biology, Nancy stated firmly. We seek peaceful cooperation with all Alliance species. Of course, said General Krillvex, making a gesture that Nancy's translator identified as agreement. Yet we cannot ignore the military applications. Your people can operate in environments that would kill our soldiers instantly. The meeting continued for hours, as the Council debated how to incorporate humans into the Alliance military structure. Nancy listened carefully, occasionally offering clarification about human capabilities and limitations. We propose creating a specialized human unit, General Krillvex finally announced, for operations in extreme cold environments where our species cannot function effectively. Nancy nodded slowly. That seems reasonable, but I need assurances that human soldiers will be treated with respect, not used as disposable heat sources. Agreed, said the general. However, we must also implement heat shield protocols on all ships where humans serve, for the safety of our crews. 2 weeks later, the first joint military exercise began. A team of human soldiers boarded the Alliance battlecruiser Star Defender for a training mission on an ice moon in a nearby system. Commander Jack Nelson led the human team, with Susan Parker joining as an observer and cultural liaison. The Alliance crew had modified one section of the ship for human use with warmer ambient temperatures and special quarters designed to contain human heat signatures. Still, whenever humans walked through the main parts of the ship, alien crew members moved aside, giving them a wide berth. They're still afraid of us, Jack said to Susan as they prepared for the mission briefing. Can you blame them? Susan replied, to them we're walking fire hazards. The mission seemed simple enough, a rescue simulation on the ice moon's surface. The human team would locate and retrieve survivors from a crashed ship, demonstrating their ability to operate in the extreme cold without the bulky environmental suits the aliens required. As the human team boarded their shuttle for deployment, Susan noticed the Alliance officers watching with a mixture of concern and curiosity. Remember, no running unless absolutely necessary, the Alliance mission commander instructed. Your heat signatures trigger our targeting systems, Jack raised, an eyebrow but nodded. Understood. Walking pace only. The first part of the exercise went smoothly. The human team landed on the ice moon and moved efficiently across its frozen surface. While the temperature was well below freezing, their specialized cold weather gear kept them functional. To the watching Alliance officers, it seemed like a miracle that the humans could move so easily in an environment that would kill an unprotected alien in minutes. Now for Phase 2, Jack announced to his team. The survivors are trapped in that ice cave. We need to move quickly. Forgetting the warning about running, Jack gave the order to sprint toward the cave entrance. 12 humans began running across the ice field, their movement creating a bloom of heat signatures on the Alliance battlecruiser's sensors. Alarms blared on the bridge of the Star Defender. Multiple heat sources approaching the training zone, called out the sensor officer. Pattern matches incoming missiles. The Alliance commander froze for a critical moment, torn between the training protocols and the apparent threat. The automated defense systems had no such hesitation. Before anyone could override them, the ship's defensive lasers activated, targeting the heat signatures on the surface. Abort! Abort! Susan shouted, realizing what was happening. Those are the humans. Turn off the targeting system. The Alliance commander snapped out of his hesitation and slammed a hand down on the emergency. Override. The lasers powered down, but not before firing 2 warning shots that struck the ice just meters from the running humans. Jack and his team threw themselves to the ground as superheated ice exploded around them. For several tense seconds, no one moved. Then Jack's voice came through the comm system, strained but calm. Star Defender, please confirm you are no longer trying to kill us. Confirmed. The Alliance commander replied, his voice shaking slightly. The defense system misidentified your heat signatures as weapons. Are there any injuries? Negative, Jack reported after checking his team. But I think we need to revisit the no-running rule. Apparently you meant it literally. The exercise was canceled, and both human and alien commanders met to review what had happened. The incident highlighted a dangerous reality. Alliance ships were programmed to treat any fast-moving heat source as a threat. This is a bigger problem. Then we realized, Nancy Wright said during the emergency briefing afterward, if our natural biology triggers your defensive systems, how can we serve together effectively? The Alliance military engineers worked through the night, recalibrating the ship's sensors to recognize human heat signatures as friendly. It was a temporary fix, but it underscored the challenges of integrating such biologically different species. Meanwhile, Susan found herself dealing with another unexpected problem. The diplomatic corps reported that Alliance representatives were struggling with human social customs. The aliens instinctively moved away from humans in enclosed spaces, their evolutionary fear of heat sources making close conversation uncomfortable. Human touches meant as friendly gestures caused involuntary alarm responses that derailed several important negotiations. We need to develop new protocols, Susan told Jack as they reviewed the day's events. No handshakes, no standing too close during conversations, maybe no humans in small meeting rooms with alien diplomats. Jack sighed. It's like we're toxic. To them. Not exactly the space adventure I imagined. Not toxic, Susan corrected him. Just different in ways neither side anticipated. We'll adapt. Both sides will. Later that evening, Nancy Wright met with the Alliance Military Council again. The mood was tense after the training incident. We cannot change our biology, Nancy said simply, and we don't expect you to change yours. But we need to find a middle ground if this alliance is going to work. General Krillvex studied her for a long moment, then made a decision. The heat that makes you dangerous also makes you valuable. Your soldiers demonstrated remarkable capabilities today, even before the targeting issue. We believe the benefits of human participation outweigh the risks. So where do we go from here? Nancy asked. We adapt, the general said, echoing Susan's words. Our ships, our protocols, our expectations, and you do the same. It will not be easy, but few worthwhile alliances are. As Nancy left the council chamber, she allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Humans and aliens were beginning to understand each other, one heat signature at a time. They thought the ship was on fire. Turns out, a human had just boarded. Part 5 and 6 months had passed since Susan Parker first stepped aboard the Starshine and was drenched in fire suppression foam. In that time, both humans and aliens had learned to adapt to each other's strange biology. The Alliance ships that carried human crew members now featured special cooling stations, where aliens could retreat from the ambient heat humans produced. Human quarters were kept at higher temperatures, which actually saved considerable ship energy. Special ventilation systems had been installed in common areas to quickly disperse human heat signatures. Susan, now serving as the human integration officer for the Alliance flagship Celestial Harmony, walked through the ship's main corridor with a small device clipped to her uniform. The device emitted a subtle signal that warned alien crew members of her approach, preventing accidental, close encounters that might cause discomfort. Lieutenant Parker, do you have a moment? Called Captain Zorlan, the Celestial Harmony's commander. Unlike many aliens who still kept their distance from humans, Zorlan had worked closely with Susan since the integration program began. Of course, Captain, Susan replied, following him into a meeting room designed for mixed species gatherings. The room was divided into temperature zones, with the human section slightly warmer than the alien section. A clear barrier between them allowed for conversation without heat transfer. The Alliance Council has completed its 6-month review of the human integration program, Zorlan said, sliding a data tablet across the table. The results are quite positive. Susan picked up the tablet and scanned the report. Despite the early challenges, humans had proven themselves valuable members of the Alliance. Their heat resistance made them excellent for certain specialized roles, and their unique biology had opened up new possibilities for exploration and research. I'm glad to hear it, Susan said. We've come a long way since I was mistaken for a fire on board your ship. Zorlan made a sound that Susan had learned to recognize as laughter. Indeed, though I must confess many of our crew still tell that story to newcomers. Susan smiled. What had once been frightening to the aliens had become something of a joke, a sign that the initial fear was fading. The Council has approved the expansion of the program, Zorlan continued. More human crew members will be joining Alliance vessels, and a new joint research initiative will explore the biological differences between our species. Meanwhile, across the ship, Alan Garcia was conducting a training session for the medical staff. After months of working together, the alien doctors had become fascinated by human physiology rather than frightened by it. And this is how we treat hyperthermia in humans, Alan explained, showing a diagram on the screen. When our body temperature goes too high, we need to cool down quickly. So even the burning ones can overheat, commented one of the alien doctors. Your biology has more safety limits than we initially thought. Exactly, Alan agreed. We're not invulnerable to temperature extremes. We just have a different range of tolerance than your species. In the engineering section, Patricia Kim was working alongside alien technicians to redesign certain ship systems to take advantage of human capabilities. Her hands could manipulate components in cold environments that would damage alien tissue, making her invaluable for certain repairs. If we modify the maintenance access points like this, Patricia suggested, drawing on a blueprint, human engineers could perform routine checks without having to power down the cooling systems. It would save hours of work. The alien engineer she was working with made a note on his own tablet. Efficient use of biological differences the Council will approve. On Earth, Commander Jack Nelson stood before a class of new recruits for the Alliance Exchange Program. After the training incident on the Ice Moon, he had been assigned to prepare humans for serving alongside alien species. The most important thing to remember, Jack told the attentive group, is that our normal is their extreme. What feels comfortable to us can be dangerous to them. Always be aware of your heat signature when aboard Alliance vessels. A young recruit raised her hand. Sir, is it true that some alien species still refuse to work with humans because they're afraid of us? Jack nodded. Some are still cautious, yes, but that's changing as they learn more about us. Our differences are becoming strengths rather than obstacles. After the class, Jack met with Admiral Nancy Wright to discuss the next phase of the integration program. Nancy had just returned from an Alliance Council meeting where a major decision had been made. They've approved the Joint Exploration Initiative, Nancy told him. Alliance and Earth ships will work together to explore regions of space previously considered uninhabitable. Because of our complementary biology, Jack said, understanding immediately. We can handle environments too hot for them, and they can manage places too cold for us. Exactly, Nancy confirmed. What began as fear has evolved into respect for our capabilities. The most profound change had come in how the Alliance viewed the universe itself. If such radically different biology had evolved independently, what other possibilities existed? Research ships were being dispatched to star systems previously considered too hot or too cold for intelligent life. Susan Parker received news of this development with satisfaction. Her disastrous first boarding of an alien vessel had ultimately opened the door to a broader understanding of life's potential. That evening, she attended a ceremony aboard the Celestial Harmony. The ship was launching a new mission with a mixed human-alien crew. For the first time, a human officer would serve as second-in-command of an Alliance vessel. Captain Zorlan addressed the assembled crew, standing at a careful distance from the human officers. When humans first joined our alliance, we saw only the dangers their biology presented, he said. Their heat signatures triggered our alarms. Their touch caused us discomfort. Their physical capabilities seemed threatening. He gestured toward Susan and the other humans present. Now we understand that these differences are not flaws but adaptations. In the cold vastness of space, having allies who burn bright with inner fire is not a liability, but a blessing. Later, as the Celestial Harmony prepared for departure, Susan stood on the observation deck watching the stars. Another human officer joined her, newly arrived from Earth. Is it true what they say? The newcomer asked. That they thought the ship was on fire when you first came aboard? Susan laughed. True story. I was covered in fire suppression foam before I could even say hello. How did we get from there to here? The officer wondered, looking around at the ship where humans now served as respected crew members. One step at a time, Susan replied. They learned we weren't dangerous fires, just different kinds of beings. And we learned to respect their biology, too. That's how alliances work, finding strength in our differences, as the celestial harmony moved away from the spaceport, its engines glowing against the darkness. Susan thought about how far they had come. The Alliance had feared the Burning Ones when they first arrived. Now they couldn't imagine exploring the cold vastness of space without them.